There's like another level. She was taking classes for it, but I don't know if she's gotten that.
Is everybody ready to get started? Programming over here. License here. Networking here.
I know she's good all.
I assume I'm going first. Yeah, and then over there. Yes. See.
I'm just gonna sit in a seat.
No, Connie, what is this table supposed to be? I wasn't paying attention.
A dance maybe. Why don't you? Is it membership?
Okay. I believe you.
All right, that works for me. I'm gonna move Kevin over to.
Person that said membership, so those people that were paying attention.
Okay. I don't think this is gonna reach you, so.
I'm not on the committee, so.
Yeah.
And you're not on a committee? What do you? Where are you from? BKD. Oh, what committee do you want to be on?
Well, I was thinking membership might be a good one because a lot of our people
We need membership. We were just talking about that in the hall. So if you don't mind being in the membership,
no, I don't mind, and I've been
that
a
would be
member
awesome.
for almost 15 years and never done anything.
Well, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I might have some insight.
Sounds like we're up, but no video. Oh. All right, hang on. No, it's all yours. I'm trying to get live streaming. I got it working and then my battery died, so I'm trying to get it back. Okay.
This must have been that.
Well, for crying out loud. Where did everybody not have anybody in membership? I don't know. Let me find out because if all the membership folks left, then we'll just let you sit somewhere else and we'll do a membership call. We'll put you on a membership call. Kevin can't see you, but he can hear you. So I'm just going to let him sit in the middle of the table of programs.
Okay.
So he can at least hear what's going on. Is that
Okay.
all right?
Hi, Kevin.
Can't talk back, just here.
He can't talk back to you, but we can call him from your phone and then you can.
that might work.
We need to be able to work that out right now. I'm just happy that he can
That's right.
actually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and get Kevin involved. Relinquish leadership duties.
I might just be in my group now. I don't know. Hey, Kevin, we're going to give you a call. Think you heard me?
quickly.
Okay, who didn't answer? Hey, Connie. Connie. So did they say what we're supposed to do in our groups? No? They just said get together?
All right, I'm gonna say probably talk about what's up there under programs.
I can't even see it.
Program with enterprise members. Pretty difficult to read though.
All right. You read that pretty well. Effectively engage and promote chapter programming with enterprise member points of contact. A little bit of overlap with membership, really. I think something that most of everybody knows at this table, probably in general, is that a lot of our enterprise members are not getting our emails. They've got a lot of very tight security in place, and even to the point where sending them individual emails from an actual person's account like mine, they're getting blocked because the hospital doesn't know who we are. Which is why one of our goals in Kyle and membership is to identify a specific person that we can reach out to and actually say, hey, here are the events that are coming up. Please promote this internally to your people so that they're learning about, the fact that they're actually with the chapter, because I've heard stories from different chapters that these people don't even actually know what HMA is or anything at all. They just are all of a sudden a part of the chapter and a member, but they don't even know it. And then it's kind of a bigger circular problem, but
Is that something that, since we are going to have all those fun lessons learned as the biggest enterprise chapter, is that something we have the opportunity to get back to, like the national office, where, you know, when you're engaging with these and they're registering, can you stipulate very clearly if you want to get? I figured that enterprise thing is it's just interesting to me. So I've been asking.
it's an evolving program over the last couple of years. Providence in Washington, I think, was one of the first to come on a couple of years ago. So they are also still facing some of the same issues. Just at this point, they've got some key people in place that are doing things like, I was on the phone with the communications department at Providence the other day, telling the marketing person, here's the event that's coming up, here's what I can send you, and then she's sending it internally to everybody to let them know what's going on electronically on their intranet, and printing out flyers for like break rooms and stuff.
May
People that would be interested.
not be a bad strategy anyway. Like if I got something from my organization, I would think, oh, I'm supposed to go to this, or I'm supposed to become, where if it's coming from someone else, I might not think that. I might think I have to ask.
Yeah, right.
Well, I got clarity certainly just earlier about how our committee will work with, or how we complement this enterprise membership thing. How we're still trying, and Gina told me too, how we're still trying to just protect the experiences of the members who have been with us all along from a programming aspect. I think in Kansas City, our programs will grow and they will be half Cerner, because that is inherently a group of people who are young, interested in learning more, getting like I think, and it's easy. Like we're gonna have an event at Cerner. I mean, I have a feeling, So
And that'll be low cost for the lower cost for
yeah,
the chapter.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, here's something to think in my mind with Cerner, for example, is you have an organization that is putting EMRs into hospitals. And as they're talking and they're in there putting those EMRs in those hospitals, and they're talking about, well, this is a good resource. Somehow we need to get it in their mind that HFMAs should be that first key of, these are the people that you need to talk to. If you have a question about revenue management, this is the group that we go to. This is the group that you need to be a part of. Whether it's our state or another state, it still grows that organization because they touch every state. They touch countries even because they're very well. But I think you're going to have a hard time getting to that point because if they're not knowing what we are to begin with, which in some ways are like, okay, do you have like a breakfast, like a ground round breakfast where you come in and you put on a big spread to where they think they're getting a free meal out of it and stuff.
Yep.
But I don't even know if that's going to be enough of it. I think you're really going to have their supervisors even responsibility to HFMA is the way to go to get to that point.
Yeah, because my experience with how our enterprise membership is going, and I'm just one voice, like I might be totally wrong here, but we're recommending or requiring our new folks to get certified. So they're becoming members for the for the 3 hour or however long it is now CRCR test. I think it's going to be the local conversations, just like you're saying, that are going to help them understand it's more than just.
Right. I would agree with that. That is something that I hear not just from you, it's from a lot of people that when the enterprise memberships are happening, they're talking about it at an association level. Here's the benefits that you can get, the webinar education you can get, the certifications you can get. That's what seems to be the main sales. It's the handoff that we're needing to kind of foster a little bit more, and what else is involved. What else they can attend in person, and the education they can get, in their own backyard.
Right, because taking my server hat off and putting back my old tattered HFMA hat, because it's one I've had longer. I, as a provider, because I was a provider 4 years ago and back, I used to come in and it was all St. Luke's people, and that's where I started. So that was great for me. If I were to come in as a provider now and half the room is Cerner, that's going to feel very vendor heavy. Like, it's not going to make any sense. So then what, so I know I'm talking on both sides of my mouth, but it was something I've been trying to figure out. Now in St. Louis, where most of our enterprise members are providers, that's.
And are we hitting the right platform with these enterprise, and even with not just the enterprise, but even with just the younger generations of the websites? Is that really the right platform for us to be trying to reach them? Like, example of maybe we have a Twitter account that is for those HFMA enterprise members, to where it's geared towards that's all that information, or Facebook, whatever the next big thing that comes out is. But where they're getting stuff that's fed directly to them for their components, and not where it's the whole organization. Because we want to go to these meetings, but they don't necessarily want to go to those meetings. They need their own avenue, but they need enough understanding to know what we offer.
And I know that a good portion of our enterprise members are going to be experienced people. But I'm also wondering, way back when I was an early careerist, that was a big thing at HMA. I don't know if it still is, but that was like its own separate track. I mean, if you had experienced people in those events, they came specifically to network with their early careers. So I don't know if that's still a phrase.
I think we need to get back to that, because I think for a while there, especially, so I'm speaking from Kansas City, that's where I was before, and it had gotten to where it was very saturated with people who'd been in the industry for a really long time. So when I was young and I came in, it's like I walked to a table and there's 6 people sitting here and they've known each other for 20 years. And so I sit down and they're like, "Oh, how's your kid? How was the baseball game last weekend?" And I'm like, "Hi."
I mean,
So
I
think
were
we have to
thinking maybe
get back
someday
to
I'll
that.
have that.
Right. And so that's what I was hoping to do. And I think
Yes.
I'm getting there, but we just got to get that focus back on, helping them to do that and promote that environment.
Some of that can be difficult.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
with the enterprise members we got from Mercy, where we've got over 2,000 people that we don't have job titles for, or to even know what level they're at, to know if they sound like they're kind of in the early careers track, to better target some of our communications. But
I mean, I think you have to do all the angles. I think you have to do the website. You have to be promoting it on social media, have the email marketing touches, you gotta
and we do
try to get everybody.
that now. There's definitely room for improvement, so I'm not saying that there isn't, because I think we can do more, because right now it's mostly just about your events. There could be some sponsor recognition. Some of the videos that they're doing now are going to be just more fun stuff, kind of showing the fun, because I think that would help with the early careerist attraction, as far as it's not just an education event, it's also kind of a family, and there's fun aspects involved in it.
Right.
They just have to know what to look for.
Well, have we considered reintroducing the chapter again? So I know we did when we first launched, but it was kind of a rough year, and I feel like we're getting better at communicating, but I don't know that we're quite there yet. So just hey guys, here we are as a chapter again. You know, we're gonna take it fresh and go from here. Sorry. I don't know. That's a Gene probably question. Like, we're gonna solve the world's problems.
Well, I mean, there is kind of that refresh every year with every new president coming in, and they all got their own initiatives and stuff. But I think every new year is a new opportunity to try something different, innovate, and grow.
Yeah.
Especially if we're going to launch the new website.
That would
Right.
That's actually
It's actually
the
a really
perfect
good point.
opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Reintroduction, new website, new face, new.
I'm getting your information because you're going to be on the website committee. I've decided.
I don't know that you.
As far as early careers education goes, there are chapters that are doing kind of an HFMA 101 to kind of teach what the association's about. They'll add it on as kind of a either breakfast morning event where they can come in, get breakfast, and kind of learn a little bit more about what the association's about, and then chapter initiatives as well. Is that kind of what you're thinking as far as you're saying engaging and
I don't know what it looks like. I just think we have to get more and more
Okay.
involvement.
I'm gonna put you in the middle of the table. So Kevin should be on with us.
Hey, Kevin.
I can.
And I know like some, like is anybody from St. Louis in this group? Okay, so I know St. Louis, or at least I thought, had a really good student population and really good participation with the students.
Yep.
So that was always fascinating to me from Kansas City's perspective, is how do we get those really young, get them focused in healthcare early. I kind of like that.
So what we did in St. Louis that worked, that I'm trying to learn from and evolve and translate to here from the early career standpoint, and how that impacts programs specifically. We kind of had it teed up on a silver platter for us from the students. SLU has a pretty profound MHA program in the country, so they track a lot nationwide or whatever. We had a good history with them. Their finance professor essentially, long story short, said, all my finance students, you're going to enroll in HFMA and take the CHFP certification. It's free for students. You become a member, get involved, you can do that. Or you're going to take my incredibly difficult, no one passes, I administer proctored exam. So everyone's like, oh, I'll take the CHFP.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
So that's
With
how we did it.
Mizzou and,
Yeah.
Beta Alpha Side and accounting.
We kind of had a
Yeah,
incentive to help sponsor that, promote that, because nationals, that was one of our key performance indicators, was your certification pass rate.
Right.
So what's evolved from that is nationals no longer includes that as a benchmark for us, the certification. So it's like, well, why are we paying money now? We're not going to be judged on it. So that was kind of it. And then from SLU's specific point, their whole like MHA leadership turned over, and we got new people in. Like, we're just going to do it on it. So that kind of effectively put that program or made it moot. But I do think there was a lot of good one-on-one time that we spent throughout that process with the students that really curious, saying, like, for instance, Kevin on the phone came into the fold because of this early careers program. He's not a SLU, things that went into it. But same deal, we got in front of them, we got folks who came in. So I think there's a lot of things we can do that. Now, relating it to Greater Heartland specifically, there's a leadership event that we're supposed to be putting on. A leadership series is how they're kind of calling it. I was on a call with Connie and Kevin yesterday afternoon in St. Louis. One of the things that we're trying to do is to turn that into not just a one-time event, but just like a recurring ad hoc event. So taking that even one step further, recognize the dichotomy between enterprise members and just regular members that maybe like are not, they're not part of an organization that's big enough to hit that 100-person threshold. So you don't want to go to an event that has 75% surrender people and everyone else. So I think what we're going to do with this leadership series, or at least hash the idea out, is to have like 2 tracks, like a leadership series track for our enterprise members and a leadership track for our non-enterprise members, and to try to do things related to like soft skill development. How do you move up within an organization for people that just don't know? I mean, things like that. And then if we get feedback, it's like, I want this. Okay, like I'm reading through the comments of the survey that we're saying, I want this, I want this. And I think that this is our opportunity to address those specifically. So that's kind of how we're trying to, I guess, to bring everyone around the common theme of programs. This is how St. Louis, I think, is at least trying to address enterprise, early careerists, things like that.
Something that I take away from that is kind of going back to the enterprise, getting the word out about our events is having those key points of contacts at universities to get the early careers to even know about H1A, to get them to come to those types of events. And that's where, the volunteer database and committee members and everything is so important and helpful. So,
Well, and I'm gonna say this, thinking Cerner, because it's the only big vendor I can think of that's an enterprise member, but I would put it in any category. I feel like when you're working with an enterprise facility, you're working with the individual people to educate them on whatever it is and to build leadership within the organization. What I envision for those at Cerner, even if they're experienced, because this is what I try to do in part of my role, but it would be any partner, vendor, we don't like the word vendor, but partner type scenario. We need our partners to understand what it's like to be a leader in the provider industry. So I see them not, I see that the need is very valid, and I see that maybe there's some information sharing. So the enterprise groups that come from the provider setting that are going through the education you're talking about, there are going to be people in there that maybe stand out, that would have messaging on how to be a leader in a group that supports a provider. So I've been trying to think about that too. I almost feel like provider entities, you're building their company, where a vendor the size of Cerner, you're building their people. So I've been looking at it that way too.
Hey, Kevin, if you're still on, do you want to hop on and maybe kind of take over where we should be heading the rest of this conversation for our programming of efforts for the rest of the year?
Yeah, hey, it's still on. Well, I think over our past few calls with Greater Heartland calls, we kind of took a lot CFO forum, but I would like us before we're done here to recap to make sure we're all on the same page and going to be having a like event at each of the metro areas.
having a like event?
Yeah,
Okay.
like similar events. All right, yeah. So let me start with St. Louis's event or events coming up. So the first event that we have coming up is a hot topic emerging issue event. We've designed it to be around IT and cybersecurity efforts. It seems like that's a pretty frequent headline. Whether it's, I know a couple systems in St. Louis have been prone to cyber attacks and having their data held hostage and things like that. So we're going to have a panel discussion on raising awareness around cybersecurity issues, how to prevent it, how to mitigate risk, things like that. And then we're going to have a follow-up case study where we're going to dive into like business intelligence applications at some of the providers, and we're going to try and tailor it to a regional and national perspective. So it's not just here's what the people across town are doing. It's going to be here's what people in Illinois and Texas and Seattle are doing. So that's one thing that we're doing, and we're partnering with BDO, who's a large accounting firm, national accounting firm, to do that. They have an office in Clayton. I've approached the opportunity for them to carry this event over to the Kansas City side, but it's still in its infant stages. So if there's interest in Kansas City or the rest of the state to do something similar, I'm more than happy to provide the context for it. And I'm sure BDO, from a growth and development, networking standpoint, I'm sure they would be happy as well to work with you guys on that.
Who should contact DDO?
Josh Ayers.
It might be good if you just, if you could get that.
Yeah.
I can say that there were some emails floating around yesterday about the Hot Topics event. So there's
Good.
some kind of conversation about finalizing venue for 2020.
Okay.
For the Kansas City?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Do they have an office in Kansas City?
BDO?
I
think
think
they
it's
don't.
just in St. Louis, but
I don't think it's
I'm
under
not sure.
BDO, but they are, at least as far as the mirrored events type of things, that it's getting on the calendar.
Yeah, and I know, so they're new to St. Louis. I mean, they acquired a local firm to just get in the market. So they're growth hungry. So I'm sure that they would be very willing to drive 4 hours across the state or anywhere in the middle of the state too, for that matter.
As you guys talk, if you don't mind just copying me on the email, and
Yeah.
then where it makes sense, I can
Yep.
say, hey, by the way. Because even though our event wouldn't be until April, because we're delayed with
Okay.
that one.
And
Still
so
a good topic.
on that topic, our event is August 22nd in the morning. It's in Clayton, if you're familiar with where that is in St. Louis. But the registration link should be going out
Today.
Wonderful. And so I look forward to that to you guys. And if you would like to attend
Yeah, we can
to
come out.
learn and provide feedback, that'd be great.
I actually think I have a more updated calendar of
Okay.
what's going on.
We have a payer panel coming up too in September in St. Louis, which I think there's a regulatory update in. It looks like in Kansas City too, right around the same time. So Kevin, do you want to talk about that between or have we already hashed that out enough between St. Louis and Kansas City and we should just move on to something else?
I think we're on a good track of going through each of our events and make sure that we're square on both sides of the state. Kansas City, last I recall, our discussions is that we were still looking for some payers to add to that payer panel. Could we get an update from there?
No update yet, except we had hoped to have that landed by the end of this week. So I'll be sending out a note. Damon and I have both been out for different things, and so we're not very organized on a response back out to everybody, but it is our focus right now is to get those speakers landed.
Who are you trying to connect with?
So we don't have any payers committed to
No.
it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Who do you have in St. Louis?
We
Our
have
focus.
United Healthcare and Home State.
And we have Blue Cross, will be it's always our participant. But
Kevin, do we have anyone else? Ward mentioned there's 2 others. I didn't know who they were. Essence.
Yeah, Essence, and let me see if I can find that email. See who else there is. I want to say there's one more. All right, maybe need a little bit of time. Go ahead. So we have MHA locked in for both sides. KHA, Kansas City, you all have KHA locked in.
Yes.
I think we're passing on IHA on the Missouri side and just going with MHA. But yeah, Kevin Ward, who's been a lot of you that maybe from the St. Louis area may know Ward, but he was one of our co-chairs last year for programs or 2 years ago, and he was putting it together. So he's just kind of helping out to do the pair panel at Andrew this year. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't find the email that says that lists all the pairs that he has, but I think you covered them with Home State, which is that Centene Health Plan, United. Shit, the other one here. Do we
Essence.
have Essence? And do we have Covenant? Is that the other one?
I don't know.
Covenant has spoken for us in the past for this event. I just don't know if we're going after them again. But, okay. Do you all need contacts for anyone?
no, we're okay. Thank you though. If we do, we'll come back to you, but I think we're fine. We're okay.
Okay, great.
And are you guys gonna come to? Are you doing anything in the middle of the state?
Not from a payer panel perspective. We have our we tag on to the MHA conference.
Mhm.
So we have something lined up for that. And then we have the road shows.
Mhm.
We're going to do something around revenue cycle in the back of it.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be nice.
Gotcha. So, Kevin, I think the next event that we would all have in common would be there's the fall conference. That's kind of global. That's kind of out of our hands.
Yeah, is there anybody here from fall conference on that committee?
I'll be coming up to fall conference.
Um,
I can talk about the MHA. We can talk about that. So that's at the lake. We always have Kim Dugan do the FRA meeting. That brings a large audience. And we get to count that as part of our education, and then we tag on to that with about 3 hours of education. We have a topic on blockchain or cryptocurrency, and Clifton Larson Allen is going to be providing the speaker for that. And then the other discussion topic we're going to do is around medical marijuana. And Roxy has contacted someone at MHA.
Yeah, they're in-house legal counsel. I think is who the person is. Anyway, she said that she's spoken on it many times, so I just need to firm up with her that she's available, and then kind of decide if we're going to do the employer focus, like testing your employees, or if we're going to maybe do the patient focus, like what do you do if your patient wants to smoke marijuana while they're in the hospital?
Yeah, she did a 4-part series, if it's the same one.
Okay, you've seen it?
I've said 3 or 4-part series, so she'll talk, like, you can choose different topics of how does the hospital deal with it on the prescribing side, or, the certification side. How is the hospital dealing with patients coming in that are have that certificate, and then the employer side, and then there was another basic regulatory. I can't remember what the other one was, but she was really good. It was a very long.
That was Jane Drummond, right?
Yes.
So it might be worth, we talked about maybe she could do 2 1-hour sessions.
But you might want to double check with the HR organization, because they may be already tackling the employer side. And they have their own meeting at MHA.
Okay.
You're right, they do.
Okay.
You want to join the table? We can scoot over.
Oh, I'm fine sitting back here on this.
So I think if we get,
Showing you guys, because we're doing networking. So we're
Yeah.
gonna kind of listen to what you're planning, and then figure out.
so Kevin, if we can get Jane confirmed, then I think we'll be all set for the MHA planning.
Fantastic.
Your timing will be good too, because the certifications will just have started July. Certification request went out. It's supposed to be in June, and the state has 30 days to either approve them, or if they don't approve them, they're automatically approved for a year. So maybe by November, you'll have some good data on what's happened with that first bunch.
We also thought those would be topics that might bring in a broader crowd than just, finance. So that takes us to our plans.
all right. The hotly discussed CFO
Forums, which are mislabeled on here.
Oh yeah. So, Kevin, do you want to bring everyone up to speed on the CFO forums, or whatever they're called now?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and just formally change that to CFO panel. From our previous discussions, we think the panel approach is going to be best for this year. The original idea behind this was just to get the CFO only together in a room, have them talk about they're facing over breakfast, and just kind of be in a very intimate group. After some discussion with Gina and several others, the idea is to move to the panel, format. That's what our groups are used to doing. It's what we know. And instead of try something brand new this year, let's start with the panel, inviting our members and everybody else, and we'll have a moderator. And then this year we'll start asking like the CFO some of their interests, some of their pain points, and maybe try to spin that off next year into that breakfast format where it's like CFO invite only.
So how many hours are you thinking this is gonna last? Like, is it a 2-hour thing or
Really
a
been
4-hour?
talking 2 hours. Does anybody think different?
No, and in fact, at least as we were looking at locations in Kansas City, we one of the ones we're looking at is Boulevard Brewing Company. It'd be a good networking event too, because they'll do a tour in the whole business. But obviously, they aren't open, nor would we probably do a Boulevard experience for breakfast. So we're actually thinking I wanted to bring it back to the group and see if that was something that we wouldn't mind accommodating. It's the one location we have that's a little bit more on the pricey side, so it would be our one big thing for the year, but something we're thinking about. I wanted to see what y'all thought.
What about the CFOs at the table?
You're looking at me.
Coffees.
I'm
Right.
just thinking for a 2-hour event, which granted Kansas City, and I'm out in nowhere's land, so it's an hour and a half for me to get anywhere. That it's almost hard for me to justify being able to say I'm going to drive an hour and a half to go to a 2-hour event to turn around and go back an hour and a half, at least in the morning, because I'm going to lose all my morning time frame just between that. So I think it's a great idea. Now I wish we could figure out a way to like piggyback it off of another event where you're already there and it wouldn't seem like you're losing a lot of time.
What else would you attend? What would be valuable to you to learn about?
I don't know if you could throw it in with do a combined forum of your leadership series and your CFOs, because you're going to hit a lot of those same people at both of those, to where maybe you expand it to, or both of those 2-hour events, maybe you expand it to, I don't know, a 4-hour or 6-hour event where it is a day time frame, but you're going to hit, let's split these off and do, here's your little CFO group, and then you can bring it back together. Everyone's going to appreciate learning more about leadership.
Right. And then it makes it more valid to do a Boulevard brewery.
Agreed.
It's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, and then to add to that again, maybe a different audience, but when I was looking at the survey results, I saw several comments about ambulatory and physician office focus, where we're very acute. At least the perception is, I think we actually are very acute based. So a CFO is going to care about both. Maybe that is a 6-hour thing where we've got the professional component, the leadership component, and the forum.
I think you do maybe for physician, CFO, leadership, cap your day with your leadership, start with your physician. So if someone didn't, you could come in for the CFO and leadership and make it either a 6 or a 4-hour kind of event.
Yeah, and if you do leadership at the end, incorporate actual context from the first two, so that it's not 3 different sessions. If you break it up into 3 different sessions, whatever that last one is, people are not going to stay. But if it's a cumulative thing, then
So are you thinking, I'm sorry, so are you thinking a breakout with physician and CFO at the same time? Or are you thinking back?
so I think if I remember correctly, there was a 6-hour, if we were to do Boulevard, I think it was a 6-hour block that you could, I think it was 9 to 3 or something. So if we were to do something like that, then it's way more expensive. So we'd have to talk about that. But or there's all kinds of other fun places that we could make be that big networking thing.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I caught most of it. I lost a little speaking away from the table, but I think it's very interesting. I think it's something that we need to consider. I kind of like the idea of having the CFO panel in the morning, followed by a leadership series, and making them sort of separate but the same program, like how we do a spring conference and a women's conference beforehand, allowing registration to be only for the CFO panel, only for the leadership series, or for both. Is that something that we can do administratively with CFO?
Yes.
Okay.
So would you add on a leadership series to your November dates, or would you just move those to January?
when you look at those dates again.
So I was wondering.
Who do we
You
have
know,
nailed down for the leadership?
One thing that already has me
Who do we
concerned about
have nailed down for the leadership in Kansas City in January?
We don't.
Oh, we don't. Okay.
Okay.
travel at the time and weather could really kill one of those events.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting too that at least when I look at this event schedule, the closer we are to an event, obviously the more concrete it is. The further away, I kind of think of it in terms of being organic. Like I see leadership series and I see this broad brush that's been painted and it's like up to you to shape it. So I don't think that we're necessarily, I think it's important to keep in mind as we kind of talk about this, everything's a valid idea, but we're not necessarily pinned to putting all this in the November thing. Like we could do the CFO forum in November as we kind of have discussed, if it's not feasible to have people travel and do all those other things. And then for one of our leadership series in April or January, whatever it is, do what we're talking about now, where we have the big event where it's this group in the morning and then you can do both of them or you can do all three of them or something like that. You know what I mean? So we don't have to think just in binary terms, November or not. We can think of November, January, April.
And I don't always, I mean, it seems to me that the leadership series are always fairly well attended by individuals. So they're not like the specific regulatory topics, which those can be well attended, but I don't think it hurts to add another leadership
I
type
agree.
of
And we
type of
did
discussion.
one thing that Ann and I did in St. Louis that worked over really well was this early careers panel where we had leaders from the C-suites of it was from I think St. Francis and SE Health and one other I forget who from Bio St. Louis. It was not healthcare related, but kind of healthcare related. Yep, and they loved getting up and talking to people that were just out of college, just into the healthcare space about how do you advance your career. So that could be a good avenue too, where we have a panel of established people, kind of your mid-range people, and people looking up saying, that's where I want to be in 10 years. They're giving me the roadmap on how to get there. You know what I mean? So you could do something where you have those people attending before, and then they turn around and say, now that I have my strategy for the next 5 years mapped out, I'm going to tell people how to come and, get to where I'm at, kind of thing.
And it helps a lot with the student recruitment as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they came through.
Oh, yeah. We didn't care about budgets. But we had like 50 people show up for it. It was pretty good event.
Yeah, I think a lot of save the dates are already created and things, but I think that if it's something that we agree that needs to be moved, we certainly can or combine. What I'm also looking at here is in February and March, there are no events for the St. Louis and Kansas City metros.
Yeah.
So I guess my point to that is I think that we don't have to stay in November or stay in January. If we want to push them out, it looks like we certainly can.
Kevin, this is Ann. Some of you know that we participated in a really large event in April in St. Louis with 3 other organizations, and we had almost 200 registrants. Those groups are willing and want to do that again with HFMA. So we don't have the date yet, but if the group is open to it, that's another event. It was April 11th this past year, and it would be somewhere around that this coming year if the group wants to do that, decides to do that.
Yeah, and I know that was a wonderful turnout, and whenever we were at, I think it was LTC, there were people that didn't even know that I was from Missouri originally that were talking about that event.
Oh my gosh.
So it's huge. I think that was a great success. So unless someone strongly disagrees, I think we should absolutely partner again for that event.
Thank you. Yes, we got some very good feedback from it. So I know HIMSS wants to, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it was an innovation seminar, and we partnered with HIMSS, HFMA, ACHE, and the League of Healthcare Experts, which is the group that I run in St. Louis. And
Do you
so,
know, do they do something similar on the Kansas City?
no,
it's
this was
a-
just St. Louis. I've had people ask me to have it other places. So, I mean, and I talked to somebody, I forget who it was, about possibly doing it in Kansas City, but we certainly could try to replicate it. What we did was we had the keynote was Dr. Randall Williams, who's the head of social and senior services here in the state of Missouri. And then I had a panel where we incorporated BJC, SSM, Global STL, which is an incredibly cool organization in St. Louis that goes to other countries and brings startup companies to St. Louis if they agree to stay there. He was fascinating. And then we had Mercy, the director of Mercy Virtual. Thank you. And then that was moderated by Erin Stam, who is the COO of ESSA Health in St. Louis. That particular content, we worked hard on making it generic so anybody there would be interested in it, and they were. And then from there, we did breakouts. And for instance, for HFMA, we had a company talk about a robotic rev cycle program of some sort. And so we tried to appeal to all 4 of those particular populations and have breakouts that would be acceptable to all of them. And we were successful in doing so. So any ideas, though, are certainly welcomed, and love to throw it again. I need to ask Worldwide Technologies if they'll let us be there again. That was where it was in St. Louis. It's a new, really fancy building. I mean, for something innovation, it was perfect. You also can't get in there unless you're invited. The security is really tight. So people were driving by it for, the year or so it's been up going, I'd love to go in there. And that Dr. Williams said, how did you get these people here? And I'm like, maybe part of it was they wanted to be able to go into Worldwide. So I think they would be open to doing it again. It gave them some great PR. And they were pretty good to work with. They donated the space, they donated the drinks. So from a cost, it cost us nothing to be part of that. Nothing. Which was really cool. So
The guy is a billionaire.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great event. So Kevin, what do you think about this still elusive CFO forum?
Panel.
Panel.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, Drew. Whatever, and I want us to decide as a group. I don't want to dictate what anyone's going to be doing here, but also want whatever happens in St. Louis is going to be what happens in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So as long as we mirror the programs, and it doesn't have to be topic for topic, but as long as this format's the same, and if we combine these into one day, then that needs to happen on both sides.
Yeah. So my suggestion is maybe to kind of frame our thinking about this 6 months in advance. So in 6 months in advance, because everyone's time is precious, but the higher up you're on your organization, the more precious that time becomes. So if we, kind of go back to the drawing board for this November event, and we say, now we're going to evolve it to this, this, and this, that just adds a couple weeks to our planning time to get more people in. And then I think that shortens our horizon and our opportunity to get on people's calendars. So my suggestion would be to keep November kind of as is, but to take this, what we're talking about now, and either tack it on to the April thing at Worldwide or a similar event, or to do something in February or March where we do something specific, where we have the leadership CFO thing in the morning tacked on with a panel discussion of some sort, or tacked on with a workshop, and turn it into 3 events, one day or something like that.
It just seems to me, I mean, and I don't know, but if we're talking about their time already being precious, if we're going to do this CFO panel in November, and then we're going to come back 4 months later and have this big CFO and leaderships, which one are they going to choose to spend their time on?
Yeah, that's
you know
a
what I
fair
mean?
point.
So are you going to spend the hour and a half to drive to just a CFO panel?
For me, no, but
Right.
in Kansas City, you've got how many hospitals that's got CFOs that are members of it. Maybe they would like to have a 7:00 lunch or
Yeah.
morning breakfast to where they can just get around and vent and then be back in the office by 9:00. And
Yep.
they're not losing that much in their own for themselves. Where me, no, I would go with the bigger event because I'm going to get most bang for my buck and my
Yep.
time.
And that was kind of the impetus for the CFO forum, is to make it small, exclusive, your peers, financial topics. And then with something like the leadership thing, then you can start to get into operations and HR and bring those people in too. The CFO forum was initially designed as just the CFO forum, but I think has evolved to something CFO, VP of Finance, Regional Manager of Finance to accommodate the BJCs of the world and SSMs of the world, and also attract the Hannibal regions of the world. You know what I mean? So that would be my response to it, is that this would be just financial related, and then they may not very well choose to come around in April and say, yeah, we're going to come back to this thing. But you may have Aaron Sam in operations over at SE say, I'm not going to go to the financial thing. That's not my world, but I am going to go to this one. So,
And you're talking attendees, not from a
correct.
presenter perspective. So that's the difference between having a CFO panel. I just want to make sure, because I think that was the original confusion, is that St. Louis has done one thing and Kansas City's done the other. Kansas City's willing to totally change through. I mean, that's not me saying we have to keep them separate, but I just want to make sure I'm listening and hearing.
Yeah,
The
at least in
different
St.
things.
Louis, what we were talking about was CFO forum moderated by someone who speaks financial terms, that's high up, that would have name recognition. So we're going after a guy who's at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, who does a lot of the and in short, did the mezzanine financing for the new SLU hospital that's being built off of Grand in downtown for SSM. So someone who can live in that world to attract, these people that not only do the day-to-day stuff, but also talk about how do I manage my portfolio and get a good return so I can grow my endowment, that kind of stuff.
So are we now adding a program so that we do both? Because the Kansas City people are looking for what they're used to doing, because that used to be like our biggest 70, 75 people. Huh?
What were you guys used to doing?
A panel of CFOs that would talk to the grader. So are we thinking about adding an event? Or are we thinking about changing the January event? Or are we thinking about doing one or the other? Are we still talking?
For November? For the CFO panel?
Or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out where we are.
Are we saying November is the Bank of America guy that's coming
Who's
in,
going to
or are we
moderate
saying
the
In
panel of
St.
CFOs?
But Kevin really wants us all to be doing the same thing.
But you guys also have it on your calendar for Kansas City.
Right, and we're supposed to do the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
we're doing
Well,
a panel.
That's what
You
Kevin
don't have to have
said.
the same speaker, but.
But like-
That's
but
where
if
Kevin
we're-
needs to
right.
clarify, because I think he's saying we want as close to the same
Yes.
as we can. So we don't have somebody like that because we haven't done it before. So we would just go find that person, or your person, see if your person wanted to do both.
Yeah.
Did we lose Kevin?
I'm still here. Yeah, you're right there. That's what we're looking to do. It doesn't have to be the exact same people or anything like that. But we're just looking for the same format.
Right.
If the panel's going to be separate from the leadership series in Kansas City, it needs to be separate in St. Louis. And I think to Drew's point earlier, I agree that it's probably best to leave the programs tentatively separate, target CFOs right now, and see what we can even pull together as far as a panel in November. If we get all that locked in enough time, the leadership series should be easy enough to throw together soft skills speakers and things like that to tack it on if that's what we decide to circle back on and put together. Am I capturing everybody's thoughts right there?
What did yours used to be like? You said it was largely attended.
It
What's
was
the difference between
So ours was a panel of CFOs. Our whole membership was invited. See John back there?
Invite members, right?
So
I thought that's what you said.
An academic center, KU, or a big facility like Kansas City, and then we would pair up with a smaller facility like Lawrence Memorial, and then we would have a ambulatory practice group, some kind of standalone ambulatory providers. We had imaging centers.
Yeah. Truman being a
Yeah,
safety
so
net.
The one time we entered into a real buzzsaw of our attempts, you might remember, was when we were trying to put a position at home hospital on the same bench as some of the large health systems. They were not going, we couldn't assemble a panel. So you got to pay a little attention to the dynamic you create, but we did, that worked real well. So we mixed for-profits, we had HCA, or with not-for-profit. So we always tried to do a deliberate mix.
So yours was like a bird's eye view from the CFO's point to all members, but you're really thinking more of a structured, streamlined CFOs only invite. So I think that's where there's.
We've had
Depending
trouble
who's
with that in
talking.
Kansas City.
We didn't have
like
good
getting
luck with that.
Yeah.
right.
That
Yeah,
was a
that was
breakfast.
not a yeah.
They
We
did
did
not.
the breakfast thing, and it didn't do the stuff to get here.
Right.
We tried to make it exclusive. Now, that wasn't the only thing we did. I think we did that as a parallel event alongside.
Like the CFOs came in first and then we had everybody else come.
So I think really that's one thing we need to kind of come to a decision on, is because I think both sides of the state has two completely different thought processes on this same topic item, and which one are we going to take and move forward with? Because you mentioned 6 months. Well, we're less than
We are
6
at
months
6
at this
months.
point for
Yeah.
November. So
Yeah.
I mean, we need to kind of decide today which direction we're going to go and move forward with that direction.
Right. And I'll be honest, like I said, I'm not opposed to changing. Like that's sort of my MO, right? Like we should consider changing. I just keep getting confused because I think I know what we're doing, and then either we're using the same words interchangeably or way different in the conversation and I lose track. So that's my challenge. But yes, we do have folks, I would say, in Kansas City who look forward to that panel each year. Would you agree?
Exactly, and I think they refer it as they want to hear more from leaders.
Yes.
Strong interest in policy trends at the state level.
Yeah.
That goes over a lot better than having a top-notch result of leadership. So
Doesn't seem to fly.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that works for you all because our CFOs don't really want to be in the same
Yeah, how
room.
can we replicate that?
I wasn't gonna say it all because I wasn't sure. I thought maybe I was the only one who thought that, but
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know if we're necessarily speaking from pedigree of success.
it's a great concept. I think it's a good.
We think it would be an interesting idea, but yeah,
And I should give our CFOs more
You guys
credit.
have done CFO panels, right?
Kevin, in the past, Greater St. Louis, have we had success, or Ann, have we had success with just the CFO only channel?
See, I assumed when we went to the panel, we had guests, we had an audience. That was other people besides CFOs.
Yeah, and
Right, I think that's where we're trying
wasn't
to
even
clarify.
just CFOs. Remember, we had gentleman Truman when he was the.
We have not really tried it in several
Yeah,
years.
that's
We've had programs throwing CFO panels in here.
C-suite
But
people.
we have not had CFO only.
Hey, Kevin, hold on one second. Can you start over it?
Yeah, we
I don't know
missed
if
it.
everyone
So
heard.
we haven't done it in St. Louis,
In the last couple of years.
specifically like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see where you're gonna get maybe a return if you don't have a bigger, broader audience to come see the panel. So we're all CFOs and we're all on the panel. And that's the,
It's more of a
we're
round
just talking, yeah, we're just roundtable talking.
Which is kind of what
Or-
you're thinking about, right?
Is that
More
it?
around.
Well,
It's what we're thinking, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it was also a charge that was kind of given to us.
Okay.
Taken on with. What are your thoughts?
so CFO Forum was my original brainchild. But again, I'm in the non-metro area, not in charge of doing this, so it's a little bit easier for me to come up with this idea.
Well, and I can see in a space like that though, and it's a perfect idea because there's no other way that you can interact with
Yeah.
other CFOs than in a forum like that. Where in Kansas City, these guys are like, it's not your golf. I don't,
Right.
you know.
So,
So I think that's
my
fair.
idea, my idea was I am part of the CFO forum, but it's at a national level, so it's with HFMA National. And it's hosted by a vendor, it's sponsored by a vendor, and there's maybe 30, 40 CFOs that are invited. And we go for a day and a half, and it's all pre-planned. There are, topics identified that we want to talk about. Someone's in charge of presenting, it's a round table type. So that was kind of the idea around this, was to try to get that within the CFOs in the state. Whether or not they're interested, I don't know.
So what if that was like like you're saying, but okay, so if we're bringing this all back to what we were talking about earlier, you've got that, you've got the leadership behind it, and that's a statewide.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Like it's spring. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna add things to the schedule because I didn't make the schedule. Sorry, guys. But like, so that because that's great, you get all the CFOs together, but then you keep these in the metro areas where they are the CFOs speaking on a panel to attract the people that aren't the CFOs, but you still give the CFOs that opportunity to get together because that's a great idea to get all of the CFOs.
I mean,
I
I don't
think
know
you
if
guys
other
would
CFOs
appreciate
want to do
that,
that.
to-
I
Something
appreciate-
like what she
Yeah.
just
I
mentioned.
appreciate
Right.
what I'm part of, but it's also, it works because not a lot of us are from the same states. And
Right.
Yeah.
so we feel like we can have a lot of open conversation. But
Because I
think it's a
suspect
great idea.
I suspect we have CFOs who, as long as they have bandwidth to get away, would very much be interested in meeting CFOs they don't know.
Yes.
I think our
Right, and are
challenge
going through the
locally
same
is
thing.
that, right?
Yeah.
St. Louis is
So
like that.
how often do you get together on?
it's every 6 months. So there's usually a fall and a spring. And then, and it's actually my audit firms, Point Moran, they're out of Illinois and Michigan. We usually have it at the headquarters, they sponsor it. It's not an opportunity for them to sell us anything, they just help facilitate and provide a location, and it's free for us to attend. We just have to pay for the travel.
So there's no, yeah, I was just thinking, would there be an option that I'm a CFO, I'm in a rural area, could I call in and still be
Yes.
able to be a part of this at, whether
Well-
it's at Kansas City or St. Louis?
I think no, we had to limit that because it's too hard with all the feedback.
Oh, okay, yeah, on the phones, yeah, I understand it.
But it does require somebody, somebody at the national office is coordinating this. And that's
I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I'm personally a reimbursement director, and I just recently set up quarterly calls, to have, so to bounce ideas off of. So, yeah.
So I agree with that. I think those 2 points were the direction of the CFO handle was get like-minded people in the room and not necessarily have me sitting in the audience where I'm listening to that. That to us was the leadership series that we're still to be determined to put on.
So that's where I've been struggling. I'm catching on to language. When we talk leadership strategies, I was connecting that to the early careers conversation where we were training future leaders. I wasn't thinking leadership series like we're going to get leaders. Yes. So I can be taught. I'm sorry. It just takes me a minute. This is the good reason why we're all together, because we're not stuck in our Kansas City language.
But maybe the CFO, and we talked about this at our last program call, maybe it's something, at least the forum, like my idea, we put off for another year. But maybe it works better in the non-metro part of the state because you could get, those CFOs don't feel like, they're more open to talk to.
I know for me to be in that type of environment in Kansas City, my critical access hospital offenders, nothing to St. Luke's in ways of some reimbursement, some setup. I'm like, you have legal counsel to make your policy
That's
up.
right.
I'm making my own policy up and then have to take it to my legal counsel that I pay an hourly rate to authorize.
Yeah, we wear so many hats.
Yeah.
Right? We wear a lot of hats.
That's a very valid point, and we were kind of conscious about that because initially the charge was CFO, BJC, come and talk to other CFOs, and there was pushback on some of the St. Louis items on our program calls, like, hey, you're mismatching job descriptions here, kind of heavily. And to your point, it's just different ballparks. And so we were going to try and, I think our charge was, while it's labeled a CFO forum, the topics would kind of drive the attendance, or who would come. So if it was more day-to-day, you do everything kind of operations, we'll find that person at SSM that does that too. And it's not necessarily the CFO, it's the regional VP or regional manager or something like that, or director of finance.
And I can see that forum that you're talking about. That would be a huge potential deterrent of trying to keep from having that burnout. That at that level, when you get to that level of your career, you could get to burnout very quickly because you've got all the stress and strain of it. Where I could see doing that forum where it is, like you said, a day and a half. That's more valuable time use of my time to do that and be able to say, okay, I need this break once a year or twice a year that says, this is my time away. I'm going to work with other CFOs, and I go, they're all dealing with the same problems, but it's more of a conversational piece and how do we how do we deal with those levels?
Well, we were just chatting about locations that we had that used to be part of the Kansas City chapter, but were more rural. And they didn't necessarily get the same value out of our events. They would get way more value out of this. They couldn't, like interacting with some of the bigger hospitals didn't help them at all.
We should have been in the Kansas City market, and our organization pulled out and said, no, we need to be
Totally
in Heart of America because that's the more rural of the.
Makes total sense. I don't really know where all this landed and what we're going to go do, but I understand now. I get it. Thank you. I totally understand now.
We've had a lot of conversations about the CFO forum.
You brought up a really interesting hot topic right now, the topic of burnout. We just had a program in St. Louis with the St. Louis Metropolitan Medical Society, and they love that. So in talking about something in terms of leadership and those soft skills, that might be a topic you might want to consider.
That could be a whole day by itself, just not just your burnout, but also your physician's burnout and your staff's and how to everyone's burnout.
It's a big deal. It is a very big deal right now and very hot topic.
I thought I saw an article recently where they said it's actually a medical condition now.
Really?
It's like published.
I believe you.
And that crosses job descriptions,
Yeah.
industry. I mean, that's not, it applies to vendors, providers, physician groups, I mean, all over the board.
Absolutely.
So Kevin, have we made progress on the CFO panel from your perspective?
Let's vow to never
Yeah,
bring
I
it
know
up
that we
again.
are running short on time though, according to Gene's itinerary. Shoot, I kind of missed some of the conversations from getting some of the background through the phone too. Wasn't able to hear everything said, but what I know that I heard some concerns about keeping that November date for the CFO forum if we are going to generally try to reach out 6 months in advance. I don't know what are the chair's thoughts here on keeping it as is and just leaving our itinerary the way, keep the two programs separate, and just change CFO forum, CFO panel, and do what we think we know this year and try to better it next year.
So Kansas City keeps what they've been doing, St. Louis keeps what they're planning on doing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so can I get I kind of heard what Kansas City did, but I missed something as well. Is it a whole day event?
No, just a couple hours. It's just like a morning breakfast.
I think that's what we're wanting to do.
Kevin, I think the only difference is the audience. The Kansas City would open it up to all members, and the charge when we started running with this and talking about it from the St. Louis side was it would be a select kind of group of people and not necessarily open to more leadership type audience.
Yeah, I think that was the original idea, but that was also whenever it was a kind of CFO only, kind of like Gina's national program. I think that we need to replicate what they're doing over on KC's side. If it's been beneficial for the members over there, everybody's happy with it. Let's go with it this year. Let's learn from it from both sides and see if we can better it. And maybe have either a spin-off next year of CFO only or to partner it with the leadership series. Because I think that leadership series and a CFO camp of some sort, you could really make that into a day and a half, 2 day event if you really wanted to. But I think we need to keep this a little bit more, keep our sight a little bit more narrow and keep it more condensed and get it right before we start blowing it out.
And I think first of all of the events would be good to attend each other's wherever possible, but I think this one specifically for us to come and kind of see what the culture and geography looks like for the other events, and so then that'll help us kind of expand our brains and how we could do things. Not to add travel, but I commit to trying to be it.
Yeah, and I do hear the concerns about the driving an hour and a half in for a
You
2-hour
bet.
program. We really are trying to figure out this video stream and see if we can get some type of online technology, because we're a statewide chapter now, and we need to figure out how folks in Hannibal can be included on a program in Branson, Missouri. All right, is everybody in agreement with that approach, with keeping them separate? CFO panel replicate what Kansas City has done in the past there, and then with the leadership series, we're going to have to. This is going to be a little bit of a evolution on what we're going to do, but I think Ann, you got a great idea there with the burnout. I know I see that being down here at Blue Cross of Tennessee. Some of these people have been here for 40 years, and I wasn't used to that back in 17. And you see some of that burnout. So I'm interested in really everything with that leadership series. There's a lot of good topics we can have.
I want to hear more, not today, but I want to hear more about the 200 people program that you had with them.
And a lot of soft skills now, people are really wanting that. The last 2 LHE meetings we've had have been full because one was discovering your strength, that type of stuff. And people have been asking for that. And I think there's a real appetite for it in the burnout. I don't know that we've done a lot of it in St. Louis the last few years. So maybe, we're catching up, but
that might be a good way to get the younger. We were talking about that earlier, the younger groups, the ones that are just kind of starting to build their career and experience some of that stuff.
Absolutely, yes.
So on the programming master spreadsheet, I think that leadership series is pegged for a half-day event. Do you all think a half-day is appropriate, or should that more be a full day?
So there are some enterprise members and officers that are out.
I think if you could clump them into topics that may be pertinent to different people, and people could choose, I'm going to come for the morning or I'm going to come for the afternoon, that might work out well. And have pricing, adjusted that way. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm networking now. I'm not. I need to zip my mouth, Kevin. But you know me, and that's hard. So I'm not real sure what all you talked about before, but that there might be consideration given there in terms of topics as well and audiences.
That could make sense because part of what you were saying, you were thinking leadership series, talking to early careers, and how do I get to be in the C-suite, and then the flip side of the C-suite talking to other C-suite people,
right?
And how do you become a better leader?
Yeah.
Well, and then you could even take it a step further is if you're already in that C-suite, how do you start coaching, mentoring, doing your succession planning? Because we're talking about succession planning in our organization, but that's happening in every one of these facilities as well.
Mentoring is a big deal. And, a lot of mentoring is done informally as well. And I think that's been discussed at some of our events in the past too. How do you do that? How do you find a mentor? Why should you find a mentor?
Right. How do you build skills to be a good mentor to
Exactly.
somebody else?
Yeah. There's a lot of content about that out there, but it's valuable, I think, when you're in that stage of
The only other thing on the CFO panel that from the St. Louis side is that we were initially decided as of yesterday afternoon to try and target St. Louis for an event space. So that's the only other update that we have on that.
Do you have context?
Someone does, yes.
I do too. I got context.
Yeah. She's also trying to get him on the speaker.
Donna just had a great idea. I think you were kidding, but I think it's a really good idea. If one of the 4 locations that we talked about for Kansas City is not going to work, or if we need to talk about other dates or whatever, I've never looked into, because it didn't exist when I was doing this before, the racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be, I don't know.
Well, my
comment was, we were talking about burnout, and I said, wouldn't that be cool to have it at the Speedway? Have a thing about burnout,
Yes.
and then do a tour of the facility.
That would be
Yes,
cool.
which I'm, yeah.
You could also market that as a separate networking event for anyone who can't come to that.
And have the drivers there where
And
they
we
could
could do a
pay to go
networking event.
around the track.
That's expensive.
That may be
Yes.
stressful,
You know
but
what?
a de-stressor. In St. Louis, we have a terrible horse track. It's in Illinois across their street, but across the river. But you can actually get a race named after you if you take your route there. And it's printed in the program and everything. I have done that. But it's a gross place. It is.
What time are we supposed to go?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So Kevin, I think we got through the end of the year at least. Are you happy with that?
So,
Yeah, I think so. With the leadership series, I know a lot's just it'll take form as we kind of get the rest of this laid out. But yeah, I like that we have the entire calendar year finished, and we have locations for everything, and I think that was the biggest thing for DeMars to get locked in. So yeah, I'm happy, and I appreciate everybody's hard work on this. I know programming may not be the most exciting thing to do here, but I really appreciate everybody's help.
Got it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. So you would be interested in something like I was talking.
Yes.
So maybe you and I should be. Maybe we should work on a non-metro one for next year.
There you go.
Yes, he does. Just
I know one of the clubhouse meetings about this, about doing that exact thing. And not even
No,
from
no,
a
it's not.
perspective, just like, hey, we know a lot of CFOs, why don't you, I think he wants kind of like your investment grant.
Yeah,
Hang out in Katie's conference show.
Still
whatever.
Panel person.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know several clients, you guys doing system conversions, things are happening at your hospital. Who do you have to talk to about that? Who's going through it?
Where are you from?
BKD, right?
Kansas City. Yeah.
Well, I heard you say me, and then for some reason I heard Katie, and I was like, that's
You
because
can-
our
I'm not-
insurance.
No.
And I was like, wait, what?
But like, I don't know about you, but all the quality stuff you have to do.
Right. Well, and I'm even thinking as much as like corporate compliance. Our corporate compliance program, I hate to say it, it's the same thing it's been for years and years because nobody has time to dedicate that time to learn what should be the new processes, what should be the new things we're working on. Like, yeah, we're working on like revenue cycle pieces and stuff like that. But what is truly a meaningful discussion to bring to those compliance meetings of this is what we need to be discussing, truly discussing, and not just
like a proactive approach and not just what.
exactly.
Like the thing that we had a webinar, my CFO panel group, we had a webinar 2 weeks ago, and it was on IT spend and how you plan for that capital and operating expense, and it was specifically around, it was a great time.
Yeah. How many people has an IT department that goes, oh, by the way, I'm out of space and I need to get $50,000 by tomorrow, and it's like, no, I got to take it to the board.
Yes.
I can just give you.
Can you not pre-plan? Why didn't you tell me that during budget season that was going to happen?
Yeah, I can see how the CFO conversation or the rule or the outlying hospitals would be very important. Unfortunately, in the city, we are way too competitive with each other. They don't want to talk in front of the other people about what's going on in their facilities. So that's why we had such bad luck with just trying to get CFOs together. But if you're in southern Missouri and you're in northern Missouri, you're not competing.
Yeah, we
I'm
don't.
not a competitor.
Yeah, so you guys could really benefit from talking to each other.
Yeah.
Well, it's even hard for me to go into the Kansas City market and talk because where does all my transfers go to?
Yeah.
There's one right there.
Yeah.
And what happens if those transfers don't come back to us for swingback programs?
Right.
You know, bundle payments. It hurt us.
You bet.
Yeah, completely. Because y'all were going to keep it. I get it.
Right.
But
Right.
the little people back here needs it.
When you've been here long enough, you start drinking somebody else's drink.
Secret news of it.
I was like, that's not mine.
But no, I would love that one.
Okay, well, I'll put us on a committee.
Okay.
And even if it's like 6 or 7 people, you'll still get the discussion.
We got even better discussion maybe than if you had.
Or 6 or 7 in the city, maybe the same health system.
And, you know,
Yeah,
right,
right,
if we
right.
gotta get 6 or
It's
7,
like, why are we bothering?
Right.
where we don't have it today.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what sounds like. Sounds like we need to partner with you.
Yeah. If you need to, well, can't say as long as we'll figure out space, but yeah, definitely.